Hi folks, welcome to the Financial Statements Workshop. This is a methodical and practical session on preparing your council's financial statements, including that all-important checklist of tasks pre and post 30th of June, the recognition of revenues and expenses and tips on treatment of assets and liabilities. This session will cover general purpose and water and sewer funds. Now we have two speakers who are going to speak today. We have Mitchell Woods and Rick Sanderson. Mitch Woods is the Manager of Corporate and Financial Planning at Randwick City Council, where he has been for the last 7 years. Mitch was the Australian Financial Review CFO Awards Young Financial Manager of the Year in 2012 and has previously been named as one of CPA Australia's top 40 under 40 young business leaders. After that, I'll do a little bit of an intro for Rick Sanderson, but first up, please welcome Mr. Mitch Woods.
Whether we go. We're up to that. Okay, internal eliminations. See which one is the crane one of us is. As far as the courtesy of Mitch, you might have guessed. Okay, so when you're dealing with separate funds, as with any organisation, you need to consolidate lots of different businesses. You're going to have to handle internal eliminations. So you want your system set up to be able to do that easily. We have a code in our system that identifies what has been an internal charge. That's commonly fees, rates, and charges. Fees that you charge to sell, sort of thing. If you've got water and sewer, then you're going to have quite a bit of that with rates and charges and water usage charges to general fund. So you want to make sure that can be easily identified and incorporated in reports. You don't want to be doing that sort of thing as a manual thing that you have to bring across, set up in your system and write reports that include them. Okay, so if you've got all that set up, then it comes to doing your thin reports. What impact does that have? What's the next slide? Okay, deep impact, of course. Okay, so doing your general purpose reports, you've got your consolidated statements. So you need to be able to include those, exclude those internal charges. So one little tip there, if you have got water and sewer funds, then you have a lot of internal charging with general charges and rates, water usage charges can have quite an impact on the budget. If you don't allow for them in your budget figures, in your revenue policy that you use to do comparatives and explain your note 16, then you might have to continually explain that stuff in note 16. So in my income statement for the original budget and the revenue policy, I have the gross amounts first, then I show an estimate of internal eliminations, and then the adjusted amount, the adjusted amount that I show on the financial statements for comparisons, and you take that internal elimination factor out of it. So as I mentioned before, I know 6 to 10, your balance sheet stuff, your cash and your assets and your liabilities, you can need to identify water and sewage components of those to show as externally restricted in those extra little notes. Other impacts, note 13B for your ratios and note 21, they require you to show those figures broken down into general water and sewer. And it's a good thing they do that because really consolidated reports for a council that has water and sewer pretty well absolutely meaningless. Combining them tells you nothing. You've got to use them separate. You can't use those funds across the entities, and means you've got to set consolidated reports that really don't mean anything. You've got to delve into note 30B and note 21 to get any figures don't mean much. So you've got those entities set up right. You should be able to do those notes fairly easily. And of course, when you're doing them like that, you're not including eliminations. That's those figures with all those internal charges in there. So you're not for note 21, you're not expected to add that across and equal consolidated accounts. That they are different because one has eliminations, the other doesn't. And just a little check we do. Doing 13B, you're just check the unrestricted ratio for general fund. It's the same as the unrestricted ratio in note 13. Take out water sewer shouldn't make any difference to that figure. But just a little check we do, and sometimes it just shows that it might be some sort of a problem in there if you're not getting the same result. So the other things you need to do if you're water sewer, of course, are the special purpose reports. This is where you apply the full national competition policy compliance requirements. So do the separate reports without eliminations, of course, and then throw in your taxation equivalents and your debt guarantee equivalents. You need to make quite an array of the New South Wales Office of Water best practice disclosures, work out your dividend calculations, and show if you're meeting all those best practice compliance. Then you move to special schedules. So the special schedule 1, meeting ABS and the grant commission functions. Tricky little report, this one. You need to exclude internal charges. You need to also exclude administration charges. So you need to be able to identify those things within your accounts too, so you can easily take them out for special schedule 1. It can get a bit tricky if there's embedded in non-costing, which then flows through to different functions. You need to report to be able to sort of allow for that and adjust if necessary, so you don't get any distortions happening when you're trying to take out administration charges. And then lastly, you have to do special schedule 3 to 6, where you show income statements and balance sheets for water and sewer, again without eliminations, and a bit more detailed breakdown. So you need to, they like to categorise expenditures based on different types of categories, and then each to separate operations and maintenance. So again, you have the system set up to make it easier to identify which expenditures are operations, which maintenance, which fall within those different categories they're using those special schedules. So again, it's about setting that chart up to be able to make it easy. You can just run a report, hit a button, and that will achieve that for you. Get all that right, and you'll be able to do water through reporting policy. Make Jack you leave the city if you're in the city. Yeah, we have time.
28 seconds. Any questions for Rick or Mitch?
Yeah, Mitch, there was a question. Do you think it's a good idea to have the audit completed prior to go to the audit committee?
Depends on the charter of your internal audit committee. We don't at RAMIT. The external auditors come in about May and meet with the external auditors and go through the audit plan without us, without management present. So then they sort of satisfy themselves how the audit's going to run. And then we present the statement back to the audit committee after they've been adopted by council. it depends on how much value you think the internal audit committee is going to add to the whole process. I think it's probably, if you're doing that sort of pre-audit meeting with the internal auditors and the external auditors, there's probably enough.
Anybody else?
A few things that I had that were sort of running out of time. To sort of key points, delegate some of your work because you'll sort of burn yourself out. If you've got a procurement practices in your council that are messy, tie them up. So at the end of the financial year, you didn't know exactly what's outstanding. And celebrate with your team. As I was saying, how my rule is to have a happy team. I make sure to recognise and reward, and we go out and celebrate as much as possible.
All good? All right, ladies and gentlemen, big thank you for Rick Patterson and his voice. Watch it again.
Oh.
Oh my God.
PJ said, my name is Mitch Woods. I'm the Manager of Corporate and Financial Planning Manager at Raymond City Council. Previously been at Blaney and Narrabri. I've also worked in the country. Also speaking today will be Rick. Rick's from Tamworth. Rick's also survived an amalgamation, so I'm assuming that he'll be called upon in the next sort of 12 months, 18 months. Today's session is not exactly a masterclass, so they've only got 50 minutes. So if you're planning on sort of getting to know how to treat your independent asset classes and things like that, it's probably not going to come out of today's session. What we've sort of done with the session today is more just to give you a bit of an idea of how we run our end of year process at Randwick and also at Tamworth. So the way that I approach our end of financial year at Randwick is more of a project management approach. So you may be the head accountant, but you also have to be the project manager. So it's all about making sure you've got all your resources together and in line. So it is one big project that you basically can run over time. In a lot of cases it does. We make sure that we've got our timetable set up and that we follow that timetable. So what I'm going to talk to you today about is how we come about that timetable and how important it is the way that we do it at Randwick. So your resources, your team. Your team is your most valuable resource that you've got there. So these are the three things that I make sure that my team has at Randwick. A happy team. So if you've got a team that's got a bit of infighting going on, you probably want to deal with that before you get to the end of the financial year. I couldn't think of anything worse than living or working with a team that absolutely hate each other. So I think that having a happy team is number one rule. Especially at Randwick, we've got a very happy team. So that's the most important thing that you can take out of anything that I say today is get a happy team, because a happy team is a very productive team. A healthy team. So we promote a lot of well-being at Randwick. So we do yoga, we do boxing, we give out flu shots. We all go running at lunchtime around Centennial Park. So we've got this physical health and well-being regime going at Randwick, and it helps because if your team are all sick and out of the office, obviously things aren't going to get done. So that's also very important. The other important factor is leave. If you've got all these staff that are not taking any leave, then they're going to get a bit testy at times. So we're pretty good in local government. We've got 4 weeks annual leave, long service leave. We've now got health and wellbeing days. Encourage your team to take them at appropriate times, so that they've got a bit of work-life balance thing going on. So healthy team is also a productive team. A wise team, so making sure that your team's G'd up, whether it be taking them to training sessions, things like this. Courses and uni or TAFE or whatever, just have them all G'd up. But it's also about not so much the structured stuff, it's more developing your team as well. So things like just bringing them along to a meeting. They don't have to be partaking in the meeting itself, but just having them in the room and letting them know how those meetings work and what's going on. So when you talk about training, it's not necessarily a course with a book and an outline. It's getting involved and getting in that whole process of how the place runs. Your organisation. So these are the three important things that I try to instill into my team. So you have to relate to your organisation. So you have to know what your organisation does. So councils are little conglomerates really, because we've got childcare centres, we've got engineers, we've got nurseries, we've got community members. All, most of them sometimes don't relate to one another at all. So you have to know, we have to know all these little businesses and how these businesses run and what their little nuances are, and we have to know, we have to be able to communicate with those people and let them know that we understand what their businesses are and how they want to be run. It also helps with the relationship when you go to someone and they know that you know what their business is. Educate. So educate the staff in councils so that they know what you're trying to do. So they know that what you need them to know, basically. So at Randwick, we don't actually stop at the manager level when we're trying to teach sort of financial stuff. We make sure that it goes right down to the bottom. So all the coordinators, all the supervisors, anyone that's got anything to do with money, so anyone that can spend, which is everybody, knows the impact on the bottom line. Communicate. I probably annoy a lot of my managers because I send out a whole heap of emails. I tend to send them out with the subject line of free tennis tickets. So then they open it and they read it. Because if you send them out saying budget review, they don't read it, but if they're thinking that they're going to get free tickets to the tennis, they get excited and they open that email. Letting them know when things have to happen, so they know exactly what they have to do and when they have to do it. Everyone in the council are your clients. So to make your life easy, the best thing that you could do is to provide the most outstanding level of customer service that you possibly can produce. Because then people want to help you. If you're sitting there and not providing any customer support at all, then come into financial year when you're trying to get things done, they're not going to help you at all. But if you've been providing them excellent service all year round, 24/7, then they're going to jump to it and give you what you need straight away. The non-human resources, IT. There is a bit down there, but didn't quite make it on. IT are probably the most important people at one particular time at the end of the financial year. You don't want them deciding that they're going to do upgrade or some sort of refresh at 30th of June. Most IT managers would be a bit switched on. They understand not to do that, but you want to make sure that they do know that. You also need to have this Tech One or Chameleon, they're the people that we use, your auditors. They have to make sure that they're ready to go. You book that support in. So when I was talking about that project management approach, they're the sort of things you need. You have to make sure that you've got those resources ready to go in case you need them. So we've got the timetable that we've set up at Randwick. It's fairly detailed. So we've got the what, the who, the when, and the where. So it's pretty simple stuff. The what. So your timetable needs to have exactly what needs to be performed, and I'll go into how I come up with those tasks a bit later on. But you also need to ensure that you've got all the tasks on there, and make sure you've got some of the tasks on there that include your junior staff. Because if you've got all your tasks at a higher level, then your junior staff, well, hopefully you're sort of developing and growing. If they're not on that list, they're going to feel a little bit left out, and sort of you may disengage them a little bit. So yeah, even if it's medial, just put it on there to get them involved. The who, so who in your team is doing what? So delegate. If you're going to do the whole set of statements by yourself, you're going to sort of burn yourself out there at the end of the financial year. So you've got staff for a reason, so get them to do things. Make sure you've got the right person doing the right tasks. And it's good, I think it's good to ensure that the people know why they're doing something. It does help with when they're actually trying to get that done. If they know why they're doing it, it certainly does help. The learning and development opportunities, so give those tasks to those up-and-coming finance officers so that they can grow. If they're not given the chance to do anything, then they're never going to be able to do anything. And if you're going to do that, you also have to remember that if you haven't got time to go through it and explain why they're doing it and what they're doing and going through it sort of post completion, if you haven't got time to do that with the staff, then it's probably not the right thing to actually give them that job to do. And contingency planning, so having a list of who's doing what is fantastic when someone has to go on leave for periods of time. You can go straight to that list and say, this is what they were doing, and then delegate those tasks to new people. When things need to be completed, so they're a little bit like dominoes statements. If you kickstart something early and then you realise that something hasn't been done or something needs to be redone, you have to go all the way back to the start, and all that work has been for nothing really. So make sure that you've got your sequence right. And it's important to have everyone's input into the table as well. So if someone's doing something, or someone needs to have something completed before something else is done, then if you're there in the same room talking, then you know that's put it in the right sequence. And set deadlines, so set specific dates. Where are your working papers located? If you've got people who like to save things on their desktop, then you need to stop them from saving things on their desktop. No one should be concealing anything or think that they've got ownership over certain data or certain spreadsheets, because it's everyone's data and everyone needs to have access to that. So make sure that if someone is sort of hiding worksheets, one, it's a huge big red flag for me, but also when you're trying to get access to it, it's very difficult. Makes the audit so much easier when it's all in one spot and you can just tell the auditor, there it is, and then they don't have to come here again. So there's my timetable. There's my office, and it all sits outside my office. When people come and they tick it off, it's in the spot where I can see them and they've actually ticked it off. So I can have a conversation with them to say, hey, you've done it, what have you done? How'd you go? Do you have any problems? And have that discussion with them. So determining what needs to be on that timetable, I sort of deconstruct my statements to say, okay, well, if I complete that one statement, what do I need to do? So let's take note 6, for example. You've got note 6. So you've got your bank rec, bank confirmations, your movement for gains and losses, reserves. That all needs to be done for note 6. So that goes on the timetable. Same thing for note 7, note 8, all of those things. Just write down the tasks that need to be done and put them on that timetable. Who's doing it, when it needs to be done. Determining when. So it's like I was saying, having those people in the room so that everyone knows when things need to be done. So make it a group effort and put them up on the wall and find out who and when that sequence needs to needs to happen. Work backwards. So we book our auditors in, and then we decide when things need to be done, when it's being referred to audit by the council, and going back from there, so we know exactly what day things need to be done. I think that works best. So there's the water and sewer funds that I've also sort of included with a lot of regional councils in a financial year process. So Rick's going to discuss the Tamworth approach to dealing with multiple funds in the financial year.
Is this mic working? Great. So, mucking around with Mitch's microphone. Okay, I'll just, rather than repeating what Mitch has done, given the Tamworth approach, I'm just going to cover some of the key things around if you have water and sewer responsibilities at your council, for which most regional and rural councils have. Hopefully my legs don't go to jelly like they did in the touch this morning. Well, that would be great. Did we mention the country one? We did? Fantastic. Okay, again. Okay. I think you've gone one ahead of me there, Mitch. There one back before that? Okay, anyway, to start off with your water and sewer, importantly, to know the framework and legislation around what you're dealing with. One of Mitch's slides there said, know what you're doing, know why you're doing what you're doing. So there's a fair bit of framework around water and sewer. It's embedded in the Local Government Act and the regulations. Fair bit within national competition policy and the guidelines there, the competitive neutrality stuff, and with the state New South Wales Office of Water's best practice guidelines. So I do suggest you're very familiar with all that stuff, and you do understand what's driving what you need to do with water and sewer. Just a little tip of the Local Government Act. I don't know if anyone else can follow the layout of financial stuff within the Local Government Act. I find it's quite strangely scattered around. So what I'll do is go through it, look for anything to do with finance, copy and paste it out in a single document. So you ever need to hit some of the heavy bit of legislation, so I've got it there easy to grab rather than trying to search through the Act and find it's a bit difficult to follow. So a little tip there to make things easier to look up when you need to. Basically all those things for water and sewer, so they sort of spell out that for water and sewer you need to run those things as separate entities, separate businesses. So that's the whole kit caboodle with them, your operating stuff, your balance sheet stuff. And it means for all your balance sheet stuff within the financial reports, 6 to 10, you have to show water and sewer as external restrictions, separate little notes in there. It spells out that your water and sewage funds must be financially sustainable, so they should be able to be self-supporting. We should be able to run a reliable service. Should be able to meet all environmental and local economic needs, and to be completely self-reliant and have cost subsidies. We work all that stuff with the water and sewer funds to make sure that is happening. And it should also be able to do that on a commercial basis, not just a local government basis. So we need to incorporate taxation equivalents, debt guarantee costs, where there's any sort of subsidies with your local government, and also a imputed return on investment. So it should not only be meeting your expenses, should be doing it and covering those things as well. So all that means you have a number of system setups you would need to do to cover all that. So ideally, well, you need to have any chartered accounts for your water and sewer accounts, some sort of code that identifies that they're a separate entity from general fund and other general fund activities. That code needs to be able to, should be on all your income and balance sheet accounts, and it needs to be able to cater for what we call inter-entity transactions. So you don't want to be running separate bank accounts for all these different entities you have. You just want the one bank account, that'll be a general fund account. So any transactions between that account and the other entities like water and sewer, the system needs to be able to keep the transactions in balance to an offsetting entry, and basically that inter-entity account and those other funds, basically represents the bank account for those funds. So you can do a fully balanced balance sheet. So the systems need to be able to handle that. One thing you might need to decide under those is which staff. Do you want your staff to be dedicated to water and sewer, and therefore you've got to keep their provisions and liabilities in those funds. We find that's a bit tricky, so we just have staff as part of general fund charge their time to water and sewer. We don't have to worry about keeping those provisions within separate funds. They're just sitting in the general fund, and the water source will pay for it each year. And maybe stores, again, we just keep all stores in general fund, charge the water and sewer as it's used. I know you might want to consider whether that's okay for you, or if you want to keep water sewer stores separate in those funds. Just things to watch for the end of year. Don't want to rely on that inter-entity account to be any more than representative of what the bank account would be for those funds. So you're doing end of year accruals, then the offsetting the accrued expense number should be overpaid water or sewer number, not just the general fund number, and let the inter-entity bounce it up, because no one becomes really a bank account. So just check that final inter-entity account hasn't got stuff in it that may not be representative of the true cash balance of the funds. Of course, at the end of the year, or during the year, always make sure that each entity is in balance, that all those offsetting accounts are happening. And that's all happening well. We've got that set up, and set for reporting for water and sewer. Should be just should be the right reports just based on those entity codes that make that easy. Other things you need to make sure you're doing: full internal charging between general fund and water sewer to make sure they're wearing all the costs they should wear. So that includes your standing administration charges for your internal service providers like finance, IT, HR, risk, all those things, and rent, office rental that they might be occupying. Any specific service deliveries that the general fund is supplying, water billing perhaps, your revenue section is doing that, so that should be a direct charge with all on costs and everything included. We make sure they wear a full contribution towards governance costs. There's no reason why general fund should have to cover all the costs of the executive of council and everything else you charge to governance. There should be a contribution on the other funds for that. We base that on a proportion based on recurrent revenue. Seems to work okay. And you also need to make sure that water and sewer are paying their dividends. So there needs to be a taxation dividend, that's a compulsory one, and possibly a surplus dividend fund if you're meeting all the criteria to be able to take a dividend, and you're making sufficient surplus to do that. And you need to make sure you get the system doing full overhead on costing down into the two separate funds. A lot of their overhead costs, it's a bit hard to tell which is water, which is sewer. So typically you put those in the overhead area, and you make sure on costing triples that down into the correct funds. So make sure you're only including costs in that overhead area that is relevant for on costing, and don't stuff in there that you know is particularly sewer or particularly water, they can become direct costs. Yeah, you want to be on cost